Hey, Atlanta, Apple is open for small business. That's right. We're here to make starting and running your business simpler. With privacy and security built in on all devices, it's easy for you to protect your customers' data. And if you need hardware or software support, you'll get advice from business experts at no cost whatsoever. So you can focus more on the soup du jour and less on, the other stuff. At Apple, we're open for your small business. Go to apple.com/small business or visit an Apple store to learn more.
This episode is brought to you by AWS. Amazon Q Business is the generative AI assistant that can securely understand your business data, summarize results, and streamline tasks. Learn what Amazon Q Business can do for you at aws.com/learn more.
All right. Welcome back. If you're a veteran and you're struggling or feel like you are leading a path towards the darkness, stop and think about those who are around you. Think about how they truly value you, how they will miss you. You are not alone. You need to talk to someone. Someone will listen to you. If you feel like you'll be a burden to someone, or you don't feel like you should put that weight on your inner circle, call the hotline at 988 and take option 1. Don't make a permanent solution to a temporary problem. If you're a new listener, thanks for joining us. Please subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast apps. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel at _Misfit Nation. It's _Misfit Nation. This will keep you up to date with our latest news, episodes, and of course, our great guests. Speaking of which, our guest right here, he would like to not only raise awareness about the foundation of a new world and its goals, but also to raise awareness and teach people about the core problem of our society that is overlooked, not understood, and thought to be unsolvable. This core problem is our financial system, and it's designed to push our society to produce products designed to fail so they can be built again, simultaneously causing us to destroy our own environment, reproducing what is planned to be garbage as soon as possible, and pushing the majority of humankind into something close to, if not a form of indentured service. He would like the opportunity to shed new light on the subject and also a possible solution. So the Misfit Nation welcomes veteran, U.S. Army veteran, and founder of the Foundation of the New World, a nonprofit that aims to build a system that can solve both human exploitation and the destruction of our Earth simultaneously. So welcome, Christopher Allen Ellingsworth. Welcome, Christopher.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's great when I have veterans that can come on the shows. That's what this show is designed for veterans to have a voice, especially one like yourself, who is CEO of a founder of a nonprofit or entrepreneurism to try to help others. You're not doing it for yourself. You're doing it to help the entire marble that we live on right now. And, I'd love for you to give us a little more about your background, a little more than what I just spewed on about there. If you want to tell us as far back as you want to go to how we got to where we are now, that'd be great.
Okay. My background, as you said, I'm a veteran. How I got here, though, is long before that. It was a prayer when I was 18. It was a prayer that went farther than I would have expected it to. And by the time the prayer was done, I ended up with more than what I had asked for. I'd asked for a purpose in life, and I walked away from a prayer with 2. And it has to do with that purpose that I ended up being given. And just to keep it from going into too much depth, but as far as this purpose goes, it was to help people in the grandest way possible. And over the years, I learned what actually needed to be done, what the problems were. And what I found, right from the beginning, is money. Money seems to be surrounding our problems. And the deeper you look into the subject, the more you find that until we address certain issues with our financial system, we're never going to get past certain problems, from human exploitation to all of us who work every day and really see no end in sight. There's never enough money. The bills are always too high. They're always increasing, while our pay either decreases or increases at a rate much slower than of course, the rise in everything else, to our environment and what's destroying it, and what our financial system is actually doing to encourage that destruction, as opposed to discouraging it and making us more sustainable. Our economy actually pushes us to become more unsustainable.
Definitely. And as right now, I have a Mac on my desk right here that, because Apple doesn't let you update after so long, it's just basically a giant paperweight over here, and trying to find ways around it so I can keep it instead of just dumping it into some landfill somewhere, so it creates more of a problem down the road. I'm trying to bootleg it so it'll still work and operate off an external hard drive. So I'm doing my little part without throwing that thing away right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess I could get right into it. There's as far as like what you just talked about, there's two main problems that really push that situation. Let's just say from a societal standpoint, you have job dependency and you have this GDP dependency. Now, with me, you, and about 99% of the planet being job dependent because we're easily exploited for the fruits of our labors, we're in a situation where, of course, it doesn't really behoove us to make products that last longer. Because if you made that same computer, let's just say, and it had a shelf life, or not shelf life, but a usable life of 10 to 20 years, well, that means that's that many less jobs for the microchips, for the manufacturing, for the selling and distribution. So you see right there, like, job dependency is actually, doesn't really motivate us as a society from top to the bottom. You're talking about the people, the people who are doing it, they need the jobs. So if they know that these, manufacturers are doing things that are unethical in order to make you buy a computer every 2 or 3 years as opposed to every 10 or 20, they're more likely to keep quiet because, of course, they need and want their jobs. Then you have the company who, as we know, the companies definitely want to make their money. So, and of course, quite a few of them can be, just as job dependent as we are. But as far as those who want to just keep making money, of course, they're not motivated to make things last longer. And then, of course, from the very, very top, you have the government. And, they wouldn't want to make computers last longer. That meant that, they're going to have 5% unemployment rate, or, they're going to have to try to make that up somewhere. They're going to be more likely to just let it happen and turn a blind eye. And that's, that just goes over the job dependency aspect. When you get to the GDP dependency, you start to see that from the government's perspective, you have a much bigger problem in the same method, or the same way. You have the problem of, the GDP system. If you're familiar with it, it basically states that you need to have 2% more growth. That's growth of your gross domestic product each and every year. So it doesn't matter how much you have to produce more. And with that simple fact, that you have to have 2% or more growth each year in order to be healthy. Anything less than 2%, you're considered a recession, which you probably hear that term thrown around quite a lot when they talk about the recessions and depressions. Recession is anything less than 2% more than the total GDP that you had for your nation in the previous year. A depression is if you produce more or less than you did the year before. So with that simple fact, if you were to produce that computer, all those computers, and they lasted twice as long, well, now a country's GDP is cut in half. If you were to produce houses that lasted longer, or any goods, that GDP is now cut for each and every country. If you were to produce a vehicle that required no fuel, no outside energy source, like an electric vehicle, let's just say, the perfect vehicle with a what is the word? The endless engine. I'm trying to think of the word off the top of my head.
No, I don't know. Probably reusable energy, solar or something.
Yeah, let's just say you had a car that powered itself and didn't need an outside energy source. If you made that, you would be crushing GDP for many, many nations, as well as jobs. So you see like there's a problem with their financial system on two fronts: the GDP aspect of our financial system and the job dependency aspect. Because we're easily exploited and made poor, we're, of course, job dependent. So you see, it's really a two-headed snake that makes it to where from the top down in our society, we really don't want to make things better. We really don't want to make things last longer. You know, if you're a tradesman, you probably hear it all the time when someone does like shitty work. Oh, pardon my language. When someone does bad work, you know, that's job security. Knowing that it's going to fail in a year or two gives you a reason to come back and fix it.
And definitely, I think on your website, I read that men and women are constantly in a situation where they're working until they die now because of that. Because there's always that new best thing, and they have to keep up with that GDP. They have to keep up the inflation in order to feed themselves or feed their families, and make sure that they're not leaving them with nothing when they go. And it's almost like you're living to die.
Absolutely, living to die, and basically, it's hard to see in our society exactly where it all goes, but the fruits of our labors are being taken away and stripped away, so that a few can live luxuriously and the masses live either on the edge or just barely comfortable as long as they continue to produce constantly until, like you said, until the day we die. And that's where this comes in. That's where the foundation of a new world comes in. Everything about it is designed to actually address these issues. Even the naming of the foundation of a new world, it's named this because, you know, our financial system is the foundation of our world as it is today. And in order to change our world, really change the biggest things in our world, we need to change the foundation of our world, which of course is why this nonprofit is named the Foundation of New World. And the way that we're planning to go about doing this is by creating an economic system that actually addresses and solves these previous two problems that I just spoke about.
Definitely. And what year did you actually found the foundation?
I founded it just before COVID, back in 2020. Yeah, right in the beginning of 2020. So I founded it, and then COVID hit, and we've been working to basically try to get the word out and find different methods of doing that. And we're finally just starting to get started as far as trying to build awareness. Because our goal, of course, in order to build this currency, our goal is to build a small scale city. And of course, with a currency at the heart of this, and of course, give it to the people who work on it. This is the goal of doing this, and how it actually can bring this currency, which right now is theoretical, into the world and into existence, and to actually show it in action and prove that it actually works. And if there's any hiccups along the way, to actually address it and fix it and to make sure that it works right.
Awesome. How big is your team now?
Just a few of us right now. It's really small. Yeah. We're still just getting started. It's been a rough 2 years.
Timing.
Yeah.
You can't plan a pandemic and you can't plan around one, but you launched and probably thought, well, heck, this is some kind of evil kick in my chest right now to see if I'll stay with this and keep this purpose that I prayed for all those years ago. I prayed and I wanted to have a purpose, and now you just gave me COVID, so it gives me a lot more time to plan and execute, I guess, to move forward.
Oh, absolutely. But let's see. The system itself, the currency itself, that's actually supposed to address these issues. It's called the hour, and what it actually does to address these issues is, let's just take money for example. Whether it's the dollar, the ruble, gold, what is the value of money? It's very arbitrary in its nature. Right from the get-go, whether it's gold or a dollar, it tends to be arbitrary and tends to leave you in a situation where if you're buying and selling, you're asking yourself, like, how much is this gold worth, or how much is this item worth? And initially it seems to be that you try to find a fair trading value, but as it goes on, it turns into whoever has the better trading stance. Let's say, if you take it way back 1,000 years, you have someone with an apple orchard and someone with money, and the person with the apple orchard wants to sell apples. Well, if that person has the majority of the money in the area, and that apple orchard is one of a dozen, then of course that person with the apple orchard isn't going to get more of a fair deal. He's probably just going to get, rock bottom, whatever they can get away with offering them. or vice versa. If you're the person just one of many people with very little money and that's the only apple orchard, then of course they're going to charge as high as much as high a price as they can. Now, when it comes to this, you have to ask yourself, what is a fair price? And that's been a question for people for a long time. And right now we're operating on just whatever the customer's willing to pay for it. But if that goes unchecked and you end up with what's going on, it's more of a, as much as you can possibly get away with charging. And the system is actually designed to put checks and balances, not meant to stop people from charging whenever they want, but meant to curb it in a way that it actually shows the truth in the transaction, what the true value of it is. Like I said, it's named the hour because its base unit of measurement is an hour, which gives a true measurement of value. I mean, you look at what we're getting paid right now. We get paid based off cost of living. I'm not sure which area you're from.
I'm in Tennessee.
You're in Tennessee. Okay. I'm down here in Florida, and I'm sure if I did my same job where you live, actually I know for a fact if I do my same job where you live, I'm actually getting paid more. Where I do it in New York or Mexico, I'm going to get paid more or less based off where I am. And it's, of course, based off of cost of living, how much what is the lowest they can get away with paying you, then up from there. Right. Whereas the hour, now you have just by changing that one simple thing from $1 to an hour, now you have a true measurable starting point. You could still argue more or less based on your, what type of job it is, your experience, so on and so forth. But now you have a true measurable starting point as opposed to an arbitrary one where you're getting paid based off what you need just to survive, which basically leads us to the point where we are now. We're working, getting enough to survive as long as we work the rest of our lives.
And don't stop. Yeah.
Exactly.
Or you'll have to move to an island off of Mexico to be, I guess, happy and live a fruitful life.
Absolutely. Sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I know Florida and Tennessee, they kind of mirror each other a little bit. Depends on what part of Florida you're in. If you buy the big cities, I know the prices are a lot higher towards when the tourists are in town, especially. The ebb and flow of tourism in Florida kind of pushes the economic structure of Florida, whereas here, that only happens in about 2 cities in Tennessee, where everything else is either farming or now we have a lot of international industry that has moved here because of the tax breaks. So we have that still adds to our other part of the conversation, work until you die, because these are factories that you got to keep working and they have to keep improving their product in order to keep selling. So it's going to keep that cycle going forever.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I know one thing that really gets me as far as going back to products, I see it with the simplest of things, and it really it really makes me angry and frustrated. A can opener. Something as simple as a can opener. They're being produced to fail. And when you look at it, like if you actually study the can openers and see how they fail, like they're literally designed to. I mean, they always say, oh, well, if you're getting what you pay for, like you didn't want to spend more money on a can opener, so you're getting one that fails. Well, even if you go down to the store and you pick up one that's like 10 times the other ones, they're still going to fail in about the same amount of time. And I actually look at some of these, and you look, and the gears, how the gears work. They go together. They go together. They turn. That's how, of course, you open the can or you open a can with a can opener. Now, if you look at the gears they've designed, they actually take the gears and they put them to where they barely meet each other. Right? As opposed to making them as deep as possible so they have a good solid connection, they barely go inside one another. And then, of course, as soon as they start to slip a little bit, they wear off the tips, and hey, they don't work anymore because the tips are now gone.
Exactly.
Like, an eighth of an inch or a 16th of an inch difference in putting these things closer together, and they would last longer. So when you look at that, it's not really it's just cheap stuff made in China. Like they're using cheaper metals or anything like that. No, they've literally taken the time to design flaws into many of our products. And like I said, you can go, I go down the store and I'll pick up one that's like, $10, $15. It lasts as long as a 99-cent one because it eventually, the gears just start slipping or some other part comes off.
My dad has had a P38 on his keychain since 1958. and that's his can opener, and it has not failed. But it was made to last back then. It's a simple object. It looks like a little tooth, a shark tooth, basically, and it's worked for him all this time. Every time I say you got a can opener, he comes up, got it.
I actually went and I actually got one of those about a year or so ago. My son ended up losing it. I think he doesn't like using it because, they're small and you got to use them right, or you might I guess he stabbed himself with it or poked himself with it. I
Of
think he
course,
threw it away. I'm pretty sure he threw it away. That's my guess here. Um, but yeah, it actually, it can't fail. I mean, it's designed to actually work and last, and they just don't do that enough anymore. And like I said, there's a big aspect to that. It's a GDP. When you get to, let's just say, the destruction of the environment, looking at our GDP system and the destruction of our environment. Another aspect of the GDP system is not only, do you need to produce more consistently every year, despite how much you have. The other aspect is how they weigh it. One example that I read was that a pair of shoes. If you made, and this gets back to a lot of people who, want everything 100% American made and wonder why all the parts are imported and so on and so forth. Well, it actually comes a lot to the GDP system itself. And the way they explained it is, let's say a pair of shoes is made in America. All the parts are made in America. America gets GDP credit for the entire shoe.
right.
And that's it. Not all the parts that were made and then put into the shoe. However, if all those parts are made in different countries, the shoe leather, the laces, the sole, everything, right? Those are all made in other countries. Now, all those countries get credit, GDP credit, for all those parts. And then, of course, our country would get credit for selling the entire shoe that was manufactured and sold here. So you see, with the GDP game, it actually makes it more profitable,
Right.
to have things manufactured all over the world and then shipped back and forth to be assembled and sold, which, when it comes to the environment, is completely destructive. I mean,
Right.
these ships that are going back and forth, I looked it up, and I think the average they said was 33 or 66,000 gallons of fuel a day
Wow.
for one of these ships to go back and forth. That's just one. It's like 33,000 or 66,000. I'd have to look it up again. It's a lot. It's a lot. I mean, you're talking about what, like half a state's worth of fuel? I don't know.
It's a lot, yeah.
Yeah, how much fuel is that for one trip back and forth? I mean, I don't even know how many days. Just the fact that it's like that many, like 33 or 66,000 gallons a day for one of these tankers to go back and forth. And if you look at it, and you have countries that literally export fruit from South America to Thailand, where they'll send the fruit to Thailand, and in Thailand they'll take it, cut it up, put it in a package, and they'll ship it to America or wherever else is buying the fruit. Think about that for a second. Wouldn't it be, better for the environment if they had the packaging right near the, place where that's making the actual fruit, so you don't have to ship it to the other side of the world and then ship it back? But
A lot simpler.
oh yeah. So, there's big problems with the GDP system and the way it works. And that's what we're trying to, address. We're trying to raise the awareness on it, address it, and hopefully get people to actually follow it and do something to help do something about it.
Definitely. And do you think a lot of the, I guess, hesitation to change the methods of how we do things, especially with the GDP, comes from fear of changing a system that they've only known their whole lives, or the only thing that most of our leadership has ever known? Do you think it comes from that's fear of changing that to something they're unknown about?
I think it is there's always a fear of change, especially for those who are winning.
Definitely. Yes.
Those who are, at the top rung will, not want to change. Let's just say it's racers in NASCAR or something. They're not going to want to. The people who are winning the races aren't going to want to be eager to change the vehicles or change anything because they're winning all the time. Even if there's something majorly wrong, they're less likely to want to do anything about it. And that, of course, goes with our financial system as well. Another problem is that, people haven't really ever seen a solution to our financial system. Say money's root of all evil. Oh, well, it's money. You can't really do without it. Well, that's what I've actually designed, a money that does do something about it. And I guess I could get more into that. I kind of skipped on that part a little bit.
You can expand upon a little more if you want.
Okay. All right. So I went over the first issue it really deals with, and that's the measurement system. You go from a arbitrary dollar to a measurable hour. Now, the second part of it, it's the hour itself is made up of rules. Now, these rules, as front and back, they're printed on the hour itself. So imagine having a dollar bill with a set of rules that govern it printed on the money itself. So the set of rules, what it does is it curbs greed and prevents exploitation. And the first three rules really sum it up, really help to create that circle. The first rule is that a person should not be paid less than half an hour for an hour. Just a basic minimum wage concept, nothing new there. The second rule is that any person's pay of over 3 hours per hour is considered part of a company's profit. So you could pay yourself or your employees or whatever you want, but you couldn't sit here and pay yourself, 4, 5, 10 hours an hour and not say that your company isn't turning over a profit. It is, right? Could you imagine someone, some company, with the owner making millions of dollars a year and then say, oh, no, we're not making a profit. We're not making anything. We're going to have to cut back and take away your 401k and blah, 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 because, the company's going down on the tubes. So this rule tends to prevent that. And the third rule, the one that really ties it together and forms the first layer of the circle to prevent greed and basically curb greed, is that the price of a product or service before a company's profit has to be listed next to the price, or the cost before profit has to be listed next to the price. And that makes it so that you can see what something is actually costs before people start getting carried away and greedy. And it's designed that way to where these people can still charge whatever they want. But it's going to be harder, especially for big things and the more important things, for people to get away with just being greedy and basically lining their pockets, saying that, oh, well, everything's just expensive. So, I mean, like, let's just say movies and stuff like that, no one's going to really worry about it. Small things, people aren't really that worried about it. You're trying to make some money. That's fine. You start getting to bigger things, your medical, your house, your cars, and you start seeing these companies are making, hand over fist off of this. Let's just say you go to the doctor right now, you just get a bill. It says whatever the bill is. But with this, it would actually take in mind what all the overhead is, from the doctor to the insurance to everything, all this overhead that they always excuse themselves for. Oh, well, it's so expensive because of the overhead, because of this and because of that. Well, this would actually take that in mind and show what the actual cost of their service is. Going to the hospital, that you get a bill for $80,000. This would show that maybe it's $30,000 with $50,000 in profit. Whatever that number is, you don't know. But when people get those hospital bills and they see that profit margin, they're more likely to be upset. And instead of people going to the government begging for, universal health care and government paid health care, they're more likely to go to the government and say, these guys don't need to be charging this much. You need to find something else so that there's some other way to get medical care without having to pay these extraordinary prices. And that's actually where the last rule of the hour comes in. And it's rule 8. It is that if the needs of the people are being exploited for the profit of others, it is the government's duty to create or promote a competitor to provide the product or service at or closer to nonprofit prices. So basically, instead of the government being obliged to provide the services for you, it's getting the government just to help create healthy competition, to help lower the price through creating a competitor or promoting a competitor that's willing to do it with whatever means necessary, as far as, maybe grants or non-interest loans or whatever they have to do to try to get a competitor that will sell it lower or offer the service lower.
That explains the hour to a T. Hopefully the audience was able to grab onto it. I was easy to follow for me, so I know I'm just a nug. I don't do a lot of financial stuff, so I was able to figure that out myself just listening to you. So it was pretty easy. I thank you for sharing that with us. How does someone get in contact with you, Chris, if they want to just chat with you or for you to get your word out there more, maybe on another show?
Contact through the email is on the website. If you go to www.thefoundationofanewworld.com, you'll be able to find email, videos going into greater detail on all the 8 rules, why they're needed, and so on and so forth. And there's a join us page. There's a donate button. We always need donations. There's basically 3 things that we really need in order for this to happen. The first is, of course, donations, because we cannot accomplish this without the funding. The second would be the outreach. If no one's ever heard of this, even if Rich right now gave me the money that I would need to do it all, it wouldn't work. Why? Because if no one sees that this happens and sees that this is done and sees that there's a better way to do things, then no one's going to be willing to change anything. And of course, the third one is that after this is done, that if people follow it and they actually push that change, that those are the 3 steps that really need to happen. So yeah, please, www.thefoundationofanewworld. You'll find contact info, more information, ways to donate, and thank you.
No, thank you, Chris, and any other hosts out there listening. Don't hesitate to reach out to Chris, get him on there so we can share his story and get more people involved with the foundation, and maybe do some mind melding with him to get that word out there and get this thing rolling forward. Again, thank you, Chris, and we'll be right back. Thanks for checking us out and being a part of the Misfit Nation. Don't forget to visit our website at themisfitnation.com. It's themisfitnation.com to catch up on all of our episodes and also to get some of that great Misfit Nation gear. As always, be humble, stay hungry, and keep hustling, because we are